series session. We're going to talk about beekeeping. It's called Honeybee Talk, I guess, here, or Bee Basics, or however we want to do it. We want to introduce our speaker today is Benny Birdsong, who is a volunteer leader in Giles County. He's been a part of our program as a volunteer for many, many years. He's a master gardener, and he helped get the Beekeepers Association going here in the county, and he's really our resident expert when it comes to bees. We usually call on him to help us with most any question we get. So he's really the true guru, I think, for Giles County. So we're glad to have him here. And Benny, we're going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Kevin. I normally say that to talk or asking me if I want to talk about bees is about like asking a kid if they want a piece of candy. And I think I appreciate the opportunity to do this, but this is totally new to me. So I guess in about 40 minutes, I'll let everybody know whether I appreciate this opportunity or not. But anyway, what we're going to talk today about a little bit about everything about bees, but we kind of focus on the history of the bees, the value of the bees, and we'll talk about the bees themselves. So, even I'm punching the button and it's not moving. All right, here we go. So the first thing I want to look at is look at a little bit of the history of bees. Let's see, the honeybee has been around for thousands of years, and there's been drawings found on cave walls that shows people smoking and robbing honeybees that date back as much as 4,000 years. In those days, honey probably was the only sweetener that they had, and probably the more elite people were the ones that got to have the honey. Before the 1850s, when colonies were robbed, they were pretty much destroyed. They didn't have any way to extract the honey other than to squeeze it out somewhere or another. So you destroyed all of the comb, and because she kept the bees, and they could build back, but it was, a lot of it was destroyed. They come up with the old straw bee skip back in there somewhere, and because they had the top come off of those things, and they laid sticks across it, and hopefully that the bees would build on those, the cone on those sticks and hang down, and they could take it out. But still, all of the foundation and everything was destroyed when they did that. About 1850, Lorenzo Langstroth came up with what we know today as bee space, which is about 5/16 of an inch. Anything like 3/8 of an inch or greater, the bees will build some cone in it. 1/4 inch or on down, they will use their bee glue, the focus, and they'll just glue it up. So the come up with the removable frame with that 5/16 bee space. This is what the removable frame looks like, and that you can see around the top edges. You can see the white cap, and that's the honey that has been capped. All in the center there, the little brown caps is the brood, and this little ring around where the bees are, that's where the pollen is. And they use the honey and the pollen, and of course that's what they feed the baby bees, the larvae. After they come up with the removable frames, of course they came up with all the other stuff, and I don't know about just what order it was in, but to come up with the mill smoker, the imprinted foundation, and the honey extractor, the honey tank, and of course the screens that we screen it through, and because all of the stuff that makes modern beekeeping today. Because this all started back in the 1850s when Langstroth came up with this bee space. This is just a picture of some old billet smokers, and because there's some weird looking dudes in that picture. This is the imprinted foundation. Um, we some of them have wire in them. Mostly, if we use them in the brood chambers, or we are using them for honey, we use the wire foundation. If we're going to do cone honey, then we use the one like this. It doesn't have the wire in it. And I think that a deep super seem like they have about 3,500 sails, like a deep frame both sides. You could have like 3,500 sails on that and raise a bunch of bees on one frame. This is the honey extractor. This is one version. This one has got four sides. Mine has three. I can extract six frames, shallow frames at one time, or the deeper frames you just do three at a time. But this is centrifugal force. You just crank it, fling the honey out, and drain it out into a tank. This is the honey tank. Let's look. This is what the strainers look like, and you can see little things sticking out on all the way around it, and those will fit right over the honey tank, and because you set that right up under your extractor and drain your honey through it. The top one is kind of coarse, the bottom one is more fine. The top one catches all the bee parts and all of that, and then the bottom one kind of filtered in. And on our raw honey, as we call it, this is all we do. We won't do anything else. If you might get a little particle of pollen or a little particle of cone in it, but it's plain as good honey. Uh, but the honeybees were not native to the United States. They were brought over from Europe in like the 1600s. How would you like to have been on a ship for 3 months with a bunch of hives of honeybees? That would have this just a picture, just a frame with bees on it, and of course you can see the queen in the middle of it there. But the purpose is this: the Indians called honeybees a white man's fly. They didn't. There weren't any honeybees in the United States until they were brought over. This is just a couple of pictures thrown in here. There's several types of hives that are used today. By far the main one is the Langstroth hive, and then the ware hive, or wherever how you pronounce that. And then there's a top bar hive, and what we call a long hive or hard long hive. Uh, but the main thing is that in whatever hive that you use, that 5/16 bee space is always kept there. This over here, this is the starting of a bee gum, and you can see this is how. And I think the gum part came from they used the sweet gum tree seemed to be the best tree to use to make a beehive in. You can see they would cut out the center, and then they would burn it out and get it pretty round and all that. This other picture, this is just a picture of a hive, a colony that has built their hive on a limb, and you see this pretty often. I got at the end of this, I got some pictures that I took of had several different frames, different sections of the frame on it. And we'll look at it right at the last and talk about it a little bit more. This is the old bee skip that I talked about earlier, and so somewhere across the top here, this part came off, and then the sticks was laid across there, and hopefully the bees would build on that and build straight down, and they could pull it out. They didn't always do that, which made for a mess, and you wound up either cutting it out, tearing it out any way you could. This is the bee gums, the old bee gums, and these sections, and a lot of the gums came from the hollow trees that the colony of bees would be in, and they would just cut out the section that had the bees in it, and this was a hive. But again, they pretty much they destroyed everything except the bees themselves when they harvested the honey from those. This is the breakdown of the Langstroth hive. The picture on the left is called the English garden, and the only difference in it. And this other picture over here is the top, and it has the gable top. It's a lot nicer looking hive if you want it to be pretty. But and not just the very bottom is a hive stand. Not everybody uses a stand. Now I just have two hives. Is about all I'm able to take care of. And I got one who's got a stand on it and one that don't. And then there's the bottom board and the deep super of the hive body. And usually we have two of the hive bodies on a hive in our part of the country. They will hold enough honey to have room for the bees and enough honey to get them through the winter. We usually try to leave about 60 pounds of honey in here because each one of these frames will hold 10 pounds of honey. If you got 10 of them in there, because that's 60 pounds. But then of course you have to have room for the bees. So if you have half of your frames with honey in it, and half of them where bees can kind of get in a ball. The next, that's the queen excluder. A lot of people like to use the queen excluder, a lot don't. I don't. I think it restricts the travel of the worker bee as they come in the bottom here, go through up into the honey supers, and they have to crawl through this. And this is a metal thing that it is the slots in it is big enough for the worker bee to crawl through, but it's not big enough for the queen to crawl through. So you can kind of imagine the size of it. And lots of times even the pollen is raked off as they crawl through. The next one, which is the shallow supers or the honey supers, and you can have anywhere from 2 to 10 of them on top. And then there's the inner cover and the outer cover. And the outer cover is a telescope over the side. With the inner cover, they can kind of glue it down around the edges, but it's real easy to pop loose. If you don't use the inner cover and you just use the body up here, they'll glue that sucker down. You just can't hardly tear it off. That's kind of the breakdown of the hive. This is Langstroth's first hive. And I've been looking at this thing for 30 years, I guess, on the computer, and I hadn't figured out how it works yet. I'd like to see a better breakdown than just a picture of it. And this is a picture of Langstroth himself. He was a preacher, and I forgot what denomination. But anyway, he got into beekeeping and got real involved, and he was referred to as the father of the American beekeepers. This is just a picture of a hive body, and I just throw this in here to kind of show you this is what you want your hive to look like, or something similar to this. As you pull your frames out, and you can see around the edges and right across the top here, it's the honey, and then there'll be a band through here that will have the pollen in it, and then you see all the little brown cap cells, and this is the brood. So this is kind of the ideal picture of what you want it to look like, regardless of which one of these hive setups that you decide you want to use. This is the wearing hive. If you look at the little slats there, they just lay. You can see they just lay in here on top, and these have got nails in it with a slot there that holds it in place. But you can see that comes down to a V, and hopefully the people will paint that with beeswax, and hopefully that the bees will build on that and drop the frames down, the cone down. Sometimes they will saw a little teeth through here and cut a little piece of foundation and put in there to get them started. That's just one version. I've never used this version before. This is what's called a top bar hive, and you can see the way that it's made. Uh, and if you saw that, if you remember that frame that was that honey that was on the limb, it was kind of made like this. So that's the bee's natural way to do it. And you see inside the hive, and you see right here where this was at one time some was attached to the side, and they don't do much of that. For the most part, they won't attach it to the side. So you can see right that part right there. That's a door. It opens it out of glass, and that door opens, and you can actually sit out there and watch the bees work if you want to. And that's just a picture of a frame. You see that if you're doing cone honey, this is ideal for cone honey. You just cut you out a section and drop it in a jar. And of course, this is all natural. This is foundation that the bees have made from the wax that they secrete from their little wax cells. But if you're doing, if you're trying to get liquid honey, then the only way to do it is some way to squeeze it out of this. So you kind of get back to the old things where all the foundation was destroyed when you robbed your bees. This is the long hive, horizontal hive, whatever you want to call it. This is one that I built several years ago, and I've given it to somebody. I'm not sure even who I'll give it to now. But you can see the top on this one, and on the back side here, it's hinged. You raise the top up. The front of the hive is actually back here, and we'll look at that in a second. And this, you're standing on the back side away from the bee entrance, and that's something, regardless of the kind of hive that you use, you always stand away from the bee entrance. But when you're working on it, you still got worker bees that's going in and out, and they get kind of mad if you block their flight path. So this is what would actually be the front of the hive, and this is the main entrance here. And you got the sugar water. Back here is a smaller entrance and exit. And when this gets full up this way, you can open this one a little bit and let the worker bee can exit there and not have to come all the way back through the hive to go back out. I'll show you this right quick. This is a package form of bees that you order. It's like a 3-pound package. And the can right there has got sugar water in it. Right on here is the queen. There's a cage there that's got the queen in it. And just showing you that this is how what we'll come up with here. And to put the package bees in, you take some of these frames out and you hang the queen in between two of the cells, two of the frames, and shake bees out over them, and then you shake the rest of them down in there, and then you just put your bees in real gentle. This is a picture of where that I had put bees in here. This is and of course we have the screen bottom board on these two. You can actually see out the bottom of it there. But this is what we call a follower board, and as you add frames, you need to add frames to it. You just move the follower board down, add your frames, and put your follower board back in. You see this is real close to the wall, so bees can't get by, and that, of course, that keeps all your bees contained in there. This is good for old folks like me because if back up just a little bit, this is just what is my standing height, and so I can open this up and stand up straight. All I have to pick up is one frame at a time, which weighs, if it's full of honey, probably 12, 13 pounds with the frame and the wax and all. But with bees in it, weighs less than that. So instead of picking up a 90-pound super high body. I'm picking up some famous can is a work with it. So that works good for me, and I went the wrong way. All right. So we look a little bit at the value of bees. The honeybees were really quickly recognized as great pollinators. They're probably the best pollinators that we have, no doubt. And of course, high demand. Uh, and, and this comes from some of the different universities, but we have about 130 food crops in the U.S. About 70% of these need to be pollinated, and honeybees do about 80% of that pollinating. There's other things, as worthless as an old bumblebee is, they even do some pollinating. But the honeybees account for about a third of our food sources, our food production in the United States because of increased production from the pollination that they do. So if we didn't have the honeybee, I don't think that the American farmer would be able to produce enough food, to feed all the people. So this kind of gives you an idea of the importance of the honeybee. Well, I think about it, and I think I've got something in here on it, but if you woke up and all the honeybees were gone, what would this mean to our country, to our economy and all that? I think I got something that we'll look at that. The value of the honeybee to the agricultural industry in the U.S. is about $26 billion a year. And this presentation I got here is a couple of years old, so it may be saying it's more than that now. But it gives you some idea of what the honeybee is to our farmers. Whether they're crop farming or almonds or whatever they're raising. And almonds, for instance, if it wasn't for the honeybee, we wouldn't have any almonds. Look at the honeybees themselves here for a second, for a minute. You can see that there's 3 different castes of bees in a colony. The one on the left is the smallest, is the worker bee. There's thousands more of them than any other in the colony. The middle one is the drone bee, and you see he's a little bit stockier, heavier built. And the one on the right is the queen bee. And the queen bee, of course, is the larger of the bees. You can see the paint on the thorax there, and this is when you open up a hive and you got thousands and thousands of bees, it's hard to find the queen bee. She's got that painted dot on the back all around. She's pretty easily spotted. There's just one queen per hive normally. I have heard of situations where there would be 2 queens in a hive, but that's really rare. I never saw that. And the queen, about a week after she comes out of the cell, she emerges from the cell, she will take her mating flight. She will mate with as many as 15, 20 drones in that flight. And usually that flight will just be one day. On rare occasions, if she don't mate with enough, she'll fly maybe the next day. But this is the only time that she will leave the hive unless it's to swarm. We'll talk about swarming in a minute. It's said that the queen bee can lay as many as 2,500 eggs a day. And this is in the early spring and the build up, start building up in February through March. When she goes from 30,000 bees that got through the winter to 75,000 bees for the honey flow, she will lay a lot more eggs. And I'm drying out. I'm going to get a swallow of water here. Does any, because on the average, the queen will lay about 1,500 eggs a day. That will sustain a colony of about 70,000 bees. But any fertilized egg can become a queen. They will take that egg, they will feed it the bee milk, royal jelly, as we call it, for the full 15 days that it takes the queen to mature. And that bee milk is so high in protein that it causes the bee to develop more fully, a lot faster. She will have developed ovaries where she will be able to mate and to lay the fertilized or the unfertilized egg. It's still, you know, the jury's still out on which she decides to lay, how she lays fertilized egg in one cell and a unfertilized egg in another cell. Uh, Look right quick, it's swarming. You see on the bottom of this frame, there's two swarm cells there. And if you look at this frame, you see all these high top, high cap cells. Those are drone cells. These others are regular worker cells. You can see a drone cell here and here. And this is a good indication that the queen is failing. And so the bees recognize this. They will raise a new queen 2 or 3 days or 3 or 4 days or something before this new queen emerges. They will kill the old queen. And she's been faithful to them for 2 or 3 years, and now they just kill and throw her out. But and something that you never want to do if you go into your colony and you have some capped cells, you don't never tear your capped cells out. You done waited too late. If you go in every week and they're building queen cells before the catch, you tear them out. You tear them out after the cap, more likely the colony is going to swarm anyway, and then you're going to be left without. So much for the swarming. This is a superseding or superseded cells. These are usually somewhere up in the middle of the frame. And of course, you can see both of these are capped. All these little white specks in here are eggs. But these you don't never tear them out. They have decided that their queen, for whatever reason, is not doing good enough, so they're going to raise them a new queen. But they're not going to swarm. They will just they will kill the old queen, and then the new queen comes out, and she will fly, mate, and start all over again. This is a swarm that I think this is a swarm that I caught several years ago down Bunker Hill Road. Pretty fast one. The drone bee, he is a more stocky bee. The drone has eyes across the top of his head, and he can see 360 degrees. He can see behind him. There could be several hundred drones in a colony. The only thing that the drone does is mate with the queen. If he mates, he dies. The drone will fly. This fly zone is around 18 feet above the ground, and when the queen flies to mate, she will fly to this fly zone, and this is where the drones are flying. She will put out a scent. It's kind of a skunky smell. This attracts the drones, and they will mate with her. When the drone, when he mates, and he comes off the queen, all of his male parts pull out and stay on the queen. The next one that mates with her will pull those off, and he will mate the same thing. And of course, they fall to their death. The drone, after about 6 weeks, continues flying. He'll just fly himself to death. And if you don't fly yourself to death, don't mate. After the first good freeze, the worker bees know there's not going to be any more mating, and they will put all of the all the drones out and they'll die. Can't take the other set. So it's not good to be a drone. The oldest drone that you will find will maybe be 5, 6 weeks old. Well, the worker bees, this is by far more worker bees than anything else. And the worker got the pollen on the legs. We'll look some more at that. And see this little picture of the hive off to the side here. They could, a hive of that size, you could have as many as 100,000 bees. Normally the bees 65, 75,000 bees in an average hive. The worker bees do all the work in the hive. They feed the queen, feed her, clean her, take care of her. All she has to do is lay 1,500 eggs a day. They build the comb, they clean out. This is their first job after they come out of the cell, is to clean their cell. The older bees feed the younger larvae, and then they get a little older, they feed the older larvae. They produce the wax. I think I got a picture in here of some wax on the bottom of the worker bees. They produce the bee milk, or the royal jelly, as we call it, the larva. They collect all of the nectar, the pollen, the pulses, even make the honey. So this is just a look at the front of the hive. One of the jobs of the worker bees is the guard. And you can see some of the bees sitting here looking out. Each hive has its own distinct odor. And if a bee tries to get in that hive and is not part of that hive, if they're coming in loaded down with pollen, they probably let them in. If they're coming in empty-handed looking for handouts, they won't let them in. This is a part of their job, is to guard the hive. This is just a picture where they're getting dead bees out of the hive. This is a picture. You can see the pollen on the back of the leg, and on the back leg, and of course the bees will go from from one flower to another. They're not purposely taking pollen from a female part of the flower and putting it on the male part. But the nature of things as they go through, this is what happens. They do the pollinating. One of the things that makes the bees, so efficient as pollinators is that they go from, they go like on an apple tree, they go from one flower to another. They don't go from an apple tree to a peach tree to a factory. If they're doing apples, that's what they do. So that makes them really efficient pollinators. This is just a picture of nurse bees, and you can see there's a lot of these cells. Some of them are almost capped, but the nurse bees, they feed the larvae up to a point, and then they will fill the top of the cell with honey and the pollen, and they'll cap it, and that's what the larva lives off of. Emerges after, I think it's 21 days for the worker bee and 24 days for the drone bee. This is a picture of pollen. I'm sorry, picture of larva. And of course, you can see some of these are partially capped. This is a picture of pollen. And if you look at all the different colors, and of course, the different color depends on where they're getting the pollen from. Most of the time when you see the bees going in, the pollen on their legs are yellow, but you can come up with multicolors. This is a frame of honey, and you see that it's just full of honey. Bees, well, when honey, the pollen is brought in, and I'll get it right in a minute, when the nectar is brought in, it's about 60% moisture. And the kind of spring that we've had this year, it's a lot more moisture than that. So it's really hard for them to get it dried out. But they won't cap it until it's down to about 18% moisture. If it's above 21%, it can ferment and ruin. But if it's a properly cured honey, will never run. It may granulate. We call it going to sugar, but it actually granulates. And it never runs. You can heat it back up and it'll be just good as it ever was. This is the little picture that it's talking about. But this is the little flakes of wax that you see. This is what they use to build their comb with, cap the honey with. All right, getting close to running out of time. A good way to get started in beekeeping, to learn about bees, of course, is to join a beekeeping club or association, and of course the beginner classes. And I think all of the counties around us has a good beekeeping club. A lot of knowledge, and all of these clubs around, a lot of people know a whole lot about honeybees and beekeeping. So this is the best way to learn about bees, is to get involved with a club and attend them. And I think about all of the clubs has a beginner's class in the spring. I think there wasn't much of that went on this year because of the virus thing. But this, what I was talking about earlier, if you woke up some spring and there was no bees, there's 25-30%. Right now, there's 25-30% less bees in the U.S. than there was, say, 25 years ago. So if you come up here with no bees and food production is way down, and how much more would our food cost us, and how would this affect our economy? I point this out to point out the importance of like the backyard beekeeper. Everybody, that if you don't have but one or two hives, this adds that much. In most places, especially rural counties around, you can have bees in town. You just have to kind of place them carefully and all that. But and all of these bee clubs have people in it that's perfectly willing to work with you and kind of help to guide you and get you started. Anybody can be a beekeeper if you want to be. I've had showed bees, been in hives with a lot of people. Some that you think would just, first time they saw bees coming out would just run off. But bees, I had a little girl one time, and I just knew she wouldn't be a beekeeper, but she really could. And she just jumped right in there, and bees flying around everywhere, and she just enjoyed it. And then I've had other guys that you get a bee in the hat with you, and more likely before you get your hat off and get the bee out, you done got stung. And this is stopped some, but if you get somebody to work with before you actually get into it, and you let the bees fly around, you see what it feels like, having thousands of bees flying around your head, before you actually invest money. This is a kind of a cost of getting started, and this is a couple of years old. So to get started, it would cost you somewhere $500 or a little better for the first hive, and of course the second hive would be a little less because you don't have to have all the equipment. And it's good, I think, to have two hives instead of one, and this allows you to kind of compare one to the other. So, this is the picture of the one that I talked about. This is right down below where I live, and you can see the honeycomb that was built there. And this boy had it in his yard, and because this is some kind of bush that had leaves all over it, and he didn't know it was there until the leaves started coming off. And of course, then it was late enough in the year that you couldn't do anything with it. But he wanted it removed, and I removed it for him because you see the bees up in there between them. This is sealed off good at the top, so when it rains, the water runs off. I saw several out on limbs. All right. Something else that I might add is in getting started is to there's lots and lots of publications out there. Pick out a good publication from somebody that is a known beekeeper, not just somebody that decides to sit down and write about bees. One of the best ones that we have available is in Tennessee. We have called Beekeeping in Tennessee, and it's a publication that the University of Tennessee puts out, and it tells you pretty much everything that you want to know about beekeeping. And the very back of it, it's got a month by month, what you should be looking at, and it is particular to our area. So it's a really good publication. All right. Well,
So I guess, Matt, we'll open it up for questions. I don't know. I hadn't been able to look in the chat, see if anybody put anything in there. Can you guide us there or see if there's any questions?
Not at this time, Kevin. Maybe Benny could talk about how much does it cost to get into raising honeybees.
I didn't have an up-to-date file on that, but what I had is the cost of the beginner's kit. I think it was $460, and this was 2 or 3 years ago. It'll be a little over $500, and this is buying your bees, buying all of this, buying everything new to getting started.
That's one hive, right?
That's one hive. And I would certainly recommend that you buy new stuff, that you put it together yourself, and get the feel for all of that. Buying used equipment, you don't know why it's used, and some like American Foulbrood spores can live for 100 years. Anything else?
Any other questions, Matt? Y'all got anything else?
Hey, Benny.
Hey.
Would you recommend that before they actually start keeping bees, that maybe they kind of shadow a beekeeper for 6 months to a year before they dive head first into it?
Not necessarily that long, but it would be really good to get with, say, somebody like myself or a beekeeper, and if you don't do it but one time, but go out and get in a hive and see what it feels like to have 5,000 bees flying around your head and butting into your helmet and all that. Some people, it scares them to death. And, if you done invested $500, that's bad. Anything else?
Benny, I've been getting some questions off and on about what plants would be good for growing for honeybees. You want to touch on that for a moment?
Yeah, you can get online, and there is a list of plants. There's a list of trees that you can put out. Like the maple tree that puts out early in the spring. It's a good tree for honeybees. The willow tree is a good tree for honeybees. The tulip poplar is a good tree. Something like, of course, all your clover. The red clover is a little bit big for honeybees, and their tongue don't get down in there good. But white clover, they will eat the white clover up. Buckwheat is something good, but it makes a little bit strong honey, a bit stout. But it's a good grass or whatever it is for honeybees.
What makes the difference between darker and lighter?
The lighter honey is sweeter. It's more like apple trees, and any fruit tree is good for honeybees. white clover is a light honey, and it's usually sweeter, sweeter tasting. The darker the honey, the more bold the taste is.
What pollen would create darker honey? When they find that?
Buckwheat, a lot of the weeds that grow, they even get stuff from ragweeds. These the names aren't coming yet, but those weeds that grow out that grows up real tall and has blooms on them in the latter part of the year. That's kind of a bold, darker honey. Anything else?
Matt, I guess that's it on this end.
Yeah, thank you very much, Benny.